Good morning. My name is Nasha McCray, and I have the honor of serving as the director for the City of Greensboro's Parks and Recreation Department. And on behalf of the city and the department, I want to extend a very, very warm welcome to all of you to the heart of Battleground Parks District to celebrate the completion of the first phase of improvements at this wonderful destination. This morning, as part of our program, you will hear from Glenn Dobregosz, CEO of the Greensboro Science Center, City of Greensboro Mayor Nancy Vaughan, Chris Wilson, our Deputy City Manager, Justin Outling, City Council Representative for District 3, and Patrick Tewksbury, Vice President of Global Indirect Procurement for VF Corporation. But before we start our program, I want to acknowledge and thank other elected officials and esteemed community leaders for joining us this morning, starting off with our City Council members who are in attendance. If you could either raise your hand or stand. Thank you. That's Councilmember Hoffman, Councilmember Boozawader, Councilmember Thurm. We thank you for joining us. Also, our city manager, Taiwo Jayoba, who will be joining us. I don't see him, but he will be here this morning. I also want to acknowledge the chair of our Greensboro Science Center Board, Adam Duggins, who was not able to join us but sends his regards, as well as our chair of our Parks and Recreation Commission, Emily Linden, who's here as well as to acknowledge all of our Greensboro Science Center board members and our Parks and Recreation commissioners that are joining us today. So thank you so much and welcome. The Battleground Parks District is one of the most unique cultural, recreational, and tourism destinations in the entire history of Greensboro, and I will go on official record to say that and make that claim. The new amenities that are featured within BPD, as we affectionately call it, such as the Flyway Zip Line, which you see over here to my right, the Canopy Walk, which is right behind us, a shelter, restroom facilities, the promenade and food truck space that we're in right now, and a new and improved dog park represents so much more than just new spaces for our community and those who visit with us to explore and enjoy. So for the Parks and Recreation Department in particular, these new amenities and improvements demonstrate exactly how the city remains committed to the Parks and Recreation Department's vision of enhance, expand, and connect. This project also represents the city's continued commitment to economic impact, to quality of life, and investment in one of our community's top assets, which is our nationally celebrated and recognized Parks and Recreation system. The amenities are also a critical first phase development of BPD that represent a multitude of amazing community partnerships, innovation in park design, and the integration of Greensboro history, science, art, and recreation, all within one-of-a-kind 400-plus acre destination and green space. And so exciting destinations and places to visit while you're within Battleground Parks District include the Greensboro Science Center, which, as many of you know, is one of our state's top tourism destinations. Country Park, which is one of the city's oldest parks. The Guilford Courthouse National Military Park. The Spencer Love Tennis Center. Forest Lawn Cemetery, J.C. Park, the Lewis Community Recreation Center, and the Greensboro Rotary Carousel, which serves as the crown jewel of the district and is the state's largest hand-carved carousel. So all these wonderful improvements and amenities at each of these destinations have occurred within the last 7 years and have been made possible through public and private dollars. And they're just the beginning of the things that we have to offer here and celebrate today. And the cooperation of each of these entities that make up Battleground Parks District, they serve as a national model of how local, state, nonprofit, and federal government entities and the private sector can all work together to create a destination in our community that is unlike anything we could have ever imagined. So, speaking of imagination, partnerships, and innovation, I would now like to introduce and invite Glenn Dobregosz, CEO of the Greensboro Science Center, to share some additional remarks.
Nasha is so much more organized than I am. Here are my notes right here. So thank you everybody for being here. This isn't a truly exciting day, but it really started 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. 2009, when Chris and the former head of the military park took me to the top of the hill here and said they had an idea. And this is the first phase of that idea coming to reality today. But let me step back a little bit. I've been in this profession for 33 years now, and I've never seen a public-private partnership as strong as this one. I've lived in cities, I think there are three kinds of cities. There are cities that, for some reason, never seem to change. There are cities that talk a lot about change, but never actually do it. And there are cities that want to change, evolve, and innovate all the time. And that's what Greensboro is today. And we are so proud to be part of that. The public part of our partnership has gone through many cycles. First, as board members remember, 20 years ago when I first arrived, it was tough trying to find support for things like this, and change through science-based tourism was really hard. And it took a lot of time, a lot of presentations to get that traction. Then we actually stepped backwards a little bit 12 years ago, maybe longer, when money was taken away from partnerships like this, and we had to fight back to get it. To today, where thanks to this partnership and the 2009 bond referendum and the private donors that came forward, we're looking at $40 million of transformation through science-based tourism right behind us. And that is just the beginning of that process. So the public part is essential, but the private part is even more essential, because we're now having individuals, businesses, corporations wanting to support the dynamism of their community. And we want to play a role in that. So Patrick will speak a little bit later, and VF's great support for this project and for many other projects here at the Science Center. So what's next? The number one question I get every day is what's next? We have a what's next. In fact, we started planning it 2 years ago, maybe 3 before COVID. And I won't dwell on it, but it's called the Gateway Project. If you saw the media about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, the Gateway Project is the fusion of the arts and sciences, starting with 2 more game-changing projects, a rainforest biodome, which is a dream for many of our staff members, and an aquatics conservation center where we can have direct impact on our coastline and coastlines across the globe. That's what's coming if the Parks and Rec bond is supported come July 26th of this year. So please get out and vote. We need your support, because the transformation of science-based tourism in the city of Greensboro is really just beginning. So thank you for that. And lastly, it's been a great last 8 years for the Science Center. We've done a lot. Revolution Ridge, the aquarium expansion, the transformation of the museum. Leading that partnership is Mayor Vaughan, and I want to take this time to introduce her and thank her for her leadership, and looking forward to another decade of change and transformation here in Greensboro. So, thank you.
Good morning. Glenn is so much more organized than I am, because here are my notes. So this is an amazing opening. You know, it wasn't too long ago that we were here for Revolution Ridge. It's nice to see the momentum that this place has. I think the zip line is going to bring a lot of people in to the park. Not too long ago, on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, I bought a ticket with one of my friends, and we just walked around the zoo as adults, and it was so much fun. This truly is a place where anybody can be. You know, years ago, many years ago, when my boys were little, they had their birthday parties here, and I remember that the big experience was the dinosaur skeleton. But, you know, we have gone so far beyond that. Before, you could spend an hour or two here. Now you can truly spend a weekend with everything there is to do and see. I am so excited about the next phase, and we truly do need the Parks and Recreation Bond, among others, to pass to make this happen. The imagination that comes out of the Science Center, I think, is unequaled anywhere, and we are so lucky to have the leadership of Glenn and our Parks and Recreation to make sure that we can continue to do these things. When people ask me, what is it that we try to do to retain young professionals? College graduates. My daughter's in college. I want her to come home. I talk about all of the different amenities that we have here in our city, and this is one of them on the list. You know, we have a wonderful ropes course. Now we're going to have the zip line. things that young professionals, things that teens like to do. It is not my grandmother's science center. This is our science center, and it is so wonderful to see the way that it has evolved and what it has done for the city of Greensboro. So to everybody involved, I want to say thank you so much. I am really excited about the next phase. This biosphere will be something that no other facility has. Once again, it will be putting Greensboro on the map. So please remember, there are some handouts on the table that talk about the bond referendum, which will be July 26th, and we will need your support. Thank you so much, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Chris Wilson.
I'm not that organized. This is actually blank, but I'm going to pretend to be. I'm going to try to get through this without getting emotional, but I will tell you that I'm here today to talk a little bit about how we got to this point. And the conversation really did start in 2009. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you. If you have touched this project or worked with me or Glenn or Nasha or anybody, please just raise your hand at any point. My commissioners, my council people, all the great staff. Yeah, look at all those hands. It's about everybody in attendance has had a piece of this. And I think we should be proud of that because this is a legacy project for many generations to come. So I want to say thank you. I will mention some names, but I'm not going to mention enough names, so forgive me in advance. So in 2009, I was a division manager for the park system, which is sort of how I came to be in the city of Greensboro. I love parks, and I love the outdoors, and I love what we represent in the city of Greensboro, particularly when it comes to quality of life and outdoor spaces. At that time, one of my mentors, Roger Bardsley, who worked for Guilford County, met me on this actual hill, which has grass on it now. It did not at the time. And we discussed the erosion on the hill. Roger had a good habit of telling me what I was and was not doing well. In this particular case, I was not managing this hill very well. But as is typical with Roger and I, we chatted about everything that was on our minds. We chatted about the greenway that comes right through this area that actually connects us to the coast and the mountains. We talked about the urban loop that would spill out right here and how neat it was to have 400 plus acres of contiguous parkland touching each other, but understanding they were somewhat disconnected in the way they functioned and operated, which caused us to daydream a little bit about what could happen in this space. Just days later, at Roger's encouragement, I met a couple of other folks who became lifelong friends. One was a new dynamic visionary named Glenn Dobregosz, who I had no idea would be my partner for many, many years to come, and energizes me on many days that I don't have half the energy he does. We also met a kind, somewhat rebellious, community-minded federal park employee named Charles Cranfield, who loved this community and had an enthusiasm for it. And together we started to talk about ideas of what Greensboro could do and could be, along with many of you who are here in attendance today. I've been blessed to work on many projects throughout our beautiful city, and many of them hold a lot of meaning for me. This one would represent an opportunity to work with many great visionaries. It also represented the idea that in one space, various levels of government, a nonprofit, the private sector could all work in harmony to create opportunities for residents, opportunities for visitors to play, to learn, to socialize, to experience and grow. So fast forward to today, 2022, here we stand with a beautiful carousel up on the hill, thanks to the Rotary. We have animal-themed pedal boats, which was actually my wife's idea that I stole for this particular location and pestered Nasha to death. an inland aquarium, a zoo, an inspiring museum, a new dog park, new infrastructure, an expansion over at Spencer Love Tennis Center, which will make us one of the bigger tennis facilities in this part of the country, and a zip line that really goes all the way up there. It's very high and goes across the pond. And thank you to my friends in engineering and facilities, Butch, Kenny, everybody, Parks and Recreation, Shauna. We're not anywhere close to done. There's so much more to do, as Glenn alluded to. It supports our economy and our community through employment and experiences. I just want to say, in closing, in this time and in this space, we need more things that bring us together. We need things that we can enjoy and agree upon. This is a happy space where everyone is welcome. The very essence of this space is to recreate and inspire. Let's keep making these spaces where we can focus on being together rather than apart. It's now my pleasure to introduce District 3 Representative Councilperson Justin Outling.
As Chris Wilson just mentioned, my name is Justin Outling. I'm the District 3 councilperson. We are currently in District 3. And while this represents a small geography of our wonderful city, it represents so much more of Greensboro's culture, of its importance, as well as our future. The Science Center, Battlegrounds Parks District, it attracts visitors in our community from all 21 of our zip codes. All 100 of the state's counties, every single state in the United States of America. But more locally, it means so much more to our Greensboro community. This work has been the product of your hard work, your dedication, the support of our entire community, as reflected through a plan, a strategic plan and vision for 2020-2030. A plan that's now culminating and will result in over 450 jobs, over $80 million in economic impact over that 10-year period. And while those things are wonderful, as many of you know, I absolutely love the data, that only captures a fraction of what makes it special. The smiles that we see on all of our faces, and especially our children's faces, like my 9-year-old and 11-year-old, Clark and Clara. And so, as Glenn has said, I always say to myself as well, what is next? And what is next is what we've been working on for many, many years, the Battlegrounds Parks District, and really the creation of our region's, our state's Central Park, where you have an omnisphere, you have a zoo, you have a science center, you have paddle boats with animals and dinosaurs, a unique economic development attraction that's going to drive Greensboro to where it belongs in the state as the top city in all of North Carolina. So thank you to all that you've done. And without further ado, I now introduce Patrick Tewksbury of VF Corporation. I appreciate all of your work and your support. Let's make BPD the best they can be.
5 years ago, VF defined and articulated its purpose, and it's to power movements of sustainable and active lifestyles for the betterment of people in our planet. And one of the movement territories associated with that is Outside Matters, which is about connecting people with the outdoors and nature. And I can't think of a better way to do that than something like a zip line. We're proud, VF and VF Foundation is proud to work with organizations like the Greensboro Science Center, Greensboro Parks and Recreation, which really have the same desire to connect people with nature and the outdoors. Several of our brands bring this to life, brands like the North Face, Timberland, Ultra, Smart Wool, which many of you can go buy at any time at local stores. But I've been in Greensboro 8 years. We moved here 8 years as a family. I have 4 children. The Science Center and the parks have meant a lot to our family. Just this last Sunday, I came to the Science Center with my 11-year-old son. We did Sky Wild and toured the zoo together. I learned 2 things that day. One, my 11-year-old is a monkey and can climb on the Sky Wild like you wouldn't believe. And I'm not as young as I used to be, so I still have some wounds and sores from it. But it's a great community. We're very proud to partner with the organizations and try to bring our purpose to life. And with that, I'll turn it over to Nasha, who will close this out.
All right. Well, just in closing, I want to thank all of our speakers today, all of those who could join us. You've heard a lot of common themes from all of our speakers. You heard transformation, you heard community, you heard impact, you heard togetherness. And I'd like to add one more, wow, right? This is just a very, very special place. It's even more special for everyone who played a part in this creating such a destination that will be memorable for generations to come. As you've heard, it took many public-private partnership efforts for completion. So a special thank you to the Greensboro Science Center and their team, to the Samet Corporation for leading the construction efforts, and the design inspections team with Lindsay Architecture, Surface 678, Westcott Small, and Sutton Kennerly Associates. Of course, our city team, our engineering and inspections team, the country park staff, and our other regional park staff, our planning and project development division, and our field operations department, who have assisted us in so many ways to make this a success. So as a quick reminder before we get to the good action, Glenn, because I'm ready for you. We have some raffle tickets and some raffle items that are over to the left, so please be sure to go and grab your free raffle ticket so that way you can enjoy some of the amenities that we talked about today, as well as we welcome you to stick around and watch a competition between Glenn and I, because the other word that you heard was insanity, which is also insane that I'm doing this, but to compete on the zip line. But also want to go ahead and invite the mayor, Chris, Emily Linden, our chair, her proxy, because she's not as insane as we are, to do the zip line, Scott Neely, and others to join us on the flyway. So at this time, we're going to officially cut the ribbon to open the Battleground Parks District. And again, want to thank you all for joining us this morning. Thank you.